Our second lesson this morning comes from Deuteronomy chapter 30, verses 15 through 20. Let us continue to listen for the voice of the Lord. See, I have set before you this day life and prosperity, death and adversity. If you obey the commandments of the Lord your God that I am commanding you today by loving the Lord your God, walking in God's ways, and observing the Lord's commandments, decrees, and ordinances, then you shall live and become numerous, and the Lord will bless you in the land that you are entering to possess. But if your heart turns away and you do not hear, but are led astray to bow down to other gods and serve them, I declare to you today that you shall certainly perish. You shall not live long in the land that you are crossing the Jordan to enter and possess. I call heaven and earth to witness against you today that I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Choose life so that you and your descendants may live, loving the Lord your God, obeying God, and holding fast to the Lord, for that means life to you and length of days, so that you may live in the land the Lord swore to give to you and your ancestors, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. In his book, The Paradox of Choice, Barry Schwartz writes that there is an official dogma of Western culture, and it goes something like this. In order to maximize individual freedom, which is a good thing, we must also maximize choice and the autonomy to make those choices. Therefore, it goes that the more choices there are, the more freedom there will ultimately be, and ultimately there will be more welfare for all. And our entire culture is built around this dogma. And Schwartz argues that it is so ingrained in our day-to-day experience that no one really ever takes the time to question it. Choice. We love choice. Just think about it. When was the last time you were in the cereal aisle at Kroger and saw the literally hundreds and hundreds of different kinds of cereal possibilities? Did you know that there are over 24 different kinds of Cheerios? Just Cheerios. I recently went into Lowe's to buy a light bulb. True story. I just needed a 4-pack of regular light bulbs. That's all. And friends, have you been in the light bulb area of that store recently? There's so many choices. Low light, bright light, soft light, daylight, extended life, energy saver. When did I get so old? Choice. We love it. Mac or PC? Hulu, YouTube, Sling, DirecTV, cut the cable, go off the grid. Pepsi, Coke, Diet Coke, or Coke Zero. Cake, pie, ice cream, cookies. I guess there's always the times when the appropriate answer is yes. The paradox of choice is that there is indeed a tipping point where the number of choices available is no longer helpful. When the overabundance of choice leads to choice paralysis, you have all experienced this. The overwhelming enormity of options, and then you come home without that which you went to purchase in the first place because you just couldn't decide. The overabundance of choice can also lead to buyer's remorse. You've also experienced this. If there are more options than one can possibly weigh, there's always that nagging little thought that maybe, just maybe, the purchase that you just made was actually not the best possible option out there. That which you purchased may indeed be the best pair of jeans, the best fitting jacket, the best television you've ever owned. But the thought that there might just be a better version out there can lead you to regret. Advertisers play into this so well. You see it on TV nonstop. CEOs know it too. They know the game. In fact, the late Steve Jobs is credited with having said, "Some people say give the customers what they want, but that's not my approach. Our job is to figure out what they're going to want before they do." Choice. We all want it. But it can become so overwhelming, so paralyzing. And some of the choices can seem so simple, so straightforward, but simultaneously can be some of the most difficult and stressful ones to make. They're the life-giving, life-changing, life-shaping choices. Choices that can actually lead to life, and they have consequences. And the trick is figuring out which choices are actually that weighty, which ones actually matter in the long run. So in our second lesson this morning, we have a portion of what many have come to call Moses' farewell address or farewell discourse to the people of Israel. This text, like many in the Hebrew scriptures, was likely written during the time of Israel's Babylonian captivity. So not written when Moses was alive. The ones who recorded it at that time, who retold the story, are in essence reminiscing about where they have been, who they were, and then charting a course for who they were called to be as a people. They framed this in the narrative of the life of one of their most important leaders and prophets, Moses. Now, according to the text in Deuteronomy, our text, Moses had been leading the people of Israel for 40 years in the wilderness. Now, don't criticize his leadership skills. He didn't have Google Maps or a AAA triptych, for those of you who may be old enough to remember those. And if you don't know, look it up. They're cool. As Moses was about to hand over the reins of leadership to Joshua and then depart from the people, he had some things to say, and wow, did he have some things to say. It's the entire book of Deuteronomy. He reminded them of the most important things about their life together, the things that would continue to shape them and give them long and a lasting life. One of the most potent passages from Deuteronomy, Moses is given these words: "Hear, O Israel, observe the commandments diligently so that it may go well with you and so that you may multiply greatly in the land flowing with milk and honey, as the Lord, the God of your ancestors, has promised you." And then this: "Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. Keep these commandments, these words that I'm giving to you today. Keep them in your heart. Recite them to your children and talk about them when you are at home and when you are away and when you lie down and when you rise. Bind them as a sign on your hand and fix them as an emblem on your forehead. And write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Don't forget them. Allow them to be a part of who you are. Remember," he says. Then in our text, Moses laid out before the people a vital choice. "I've set before you today life and prosperity, death and adversity. If you obey the commandments of the Lord your God that I am commanding you today, by loving the Lord your God, walking in God's ways, you will live. You will have life." Now, life like this, like the one that they are being called toward, is an intentional one, centered on love and community. It's a life characterized by the love of the divine, a love for self, a love for others. This is the heart of the commands that were laid out before the community as they were striving to remember who they were and to discover who they were to be in the world as they returned from exile. It was the story of their corporate memory, and the one that they would continue to retell, and the one they still retell, and the one that would continue to shape them. It was how they would choose life for the sake of life. It seems so simple, but it was far from easy. What about for us? We're faced with the same choice every day, the way that leads to life and the ways that lead to destruction, adversity. How might we choose a life that was designed for life? What might such a life together look like? Well, maybe we start by finding something that serves to remind us of the mystery of it all, of this life, and then linger there. Be overwhelmed by the beauty, the wonder of all the things. Maybe we visit a thin place where the veil between heaven and earth is nearly transparent. We remember the sacred, worship with our whole spirit, read poetry, reread your favorite book one more time, pray, not with words, listen in to and through the silence. Play. Do something without regard for the outcome. Pet a cat. Play fetch with the neighbor's dog. Take a different way home. Notice something new. Let go of that thing that you've been holding on to. Be patient with yourself. Practice forgiveness. Pay attention to the people in your life, the familiar as well as the stranger in your midst. Share a word of hope. Acknowledge that you see them. Build community. Make a promise and keep it. Be empathetic. It's really not all that radical. Be kind. Extend mercy. Pursue compassion. Fight for justice. Be a peacemaker. Liberate the imprisoned. Tend to the sick. House the home insecure. Clothe the naked. Welcome and include the marginalized, the forgotten, the distanced. Give drink to the thirsty. Feed the hungry. Those are the choices that lead to life. Not just for us, for everybody. It seems so simple. But it's far, far from easy. But every day, you're faced with a choice. Let's be people who choose the way of life for the sake of all. And to God be the glory. Amen.